facts behind those events and policies that are shaping our world for today and for tomorrow. Join us weekly on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. following Amy Goodman's Democracy Now! Program. And of course, our program is live, so you can call in, you can join our discussion. We really hope that you will. Our number here again is 716-878-5104. That's 716-878-5104. Don't worry about my voice. My body is catching up faster than my voice is catching up. But, by Monday, I think I'll be closer to my regular tone of voice. So just stick with me. One of the things I wanted to focus on today, well, a number of things I wanted to focus on today, but I'm here with Norm McCarter, who is our in-studio audience of one, and we're going to be talking about something that Norm and I have been talking about for a little while. So, Norm, are you out there?
Here with you, Mr. Hare. Here with you, sir.
Outstanding. And, of course, we're here with Willie H., who is the producer and engineer that makes it possible for us to live stream the program. Welcome, Willie.
Welcome, everybody, to Living for the People with L. Nathan Hare. Calling live, y'all, 716-878-5104.
So what I want to tease out initially, Norm, is the issue of precedent. And what I mean by that is if you allow something to go down, you allow it to occur, and you don't do anything about it, then that becomes the precedent that future actions are going to be based on.
Yes, sir.
So if I stick my hand in your back pocket and take your wallet and empty it out and put the money in my pocket and then leave your wallet on the ground and you don't do anything about it, tomorrow I'm coming back to get your wallet again.
I feel that, sir. Yes, sir.
In fact, I might follow you home. I might come and get you safe, right?
Yeah.
That we all understand that.
Yeah.
Right? At least we act like we understand it. But Donald Trump is doing something that we have found has occurred throughout the American justice system, in which what he's doing is he's taking something that was done 100 years ago, 70 years ago, 170 years ago, and people let it walk. And because they let it walk, he's using something that took place 170 years ago to justify what he's doing today. Here's the example. The core of the issue that's being brought, or the accusations being brought by Jack Smith, the special counsel for the Justice Department investigating Donald Trump and his attempt to overthrow the November 30th election, the core of that is this effort to create these fake electors to the Electoral College and have them then represent that the people in a particular state voted opposite of how they actually voted in that state.
Right.
Now, I just want you to help me understand it just from your citizen logic.
Okay, sir.
From citizen logic, if it is illegal for you to forge an instrument or create an instrument that's a fraudulent instrument that legally asserts that something took place that did not take place, if that's illegal, then if you do it, you should be able to be charged for doing that, and there should be consequences for you to do that, right?
Right.
So here's what went down. Back in so many thousand, 1876. Now, this is all being trumpeted by a guy named Edward Foley. He's a constitutional law professor at Ohio State University. He's voicing this rationale that's based on a contest, a congressional contest in Florida in 1876. Now, I know you're probably saying 1876, that's 150 years ago. Why are we talking about that now? Because Donald Trump says if you said it was okay in 1876 and you never did anything about it, then it should still be okay in 2023. Here's what he's saying. The Republican candidate Rutherford Hayes, who was a Republican, and a Democratic candidate, Samuel Tilden, who was the Florida Attorney General at the time, he was a Democrat, purported to certify that Tilden was the winner of the Electoral College votes in Florida, right? Tilden was one of the candidates, in the presidential race at that time.
Right.
On the same day, Republican electors in Florida voted for Rutherford Hayes, and backed by a certification from the state's canvassing board. So he convinced the state's canvassing board to assert that Florida voted for Rutherford Hayes rather than vote for Tilden, even though that was the opposite of what actually occurred.
Right.
Now, we're talking about a federal election. We're talking about the Electoral College voters in a federal election. That the people voted for Tilden, and Rutherford Hayes and his crew said, no, I won. And not only did they do it, but they got the canvassing board in Florida that controls the elections in Florida. That's what they call it, a canvassing board. They got that board to actually say that Rutherford Hayes won when in fact he had lost.
Right.
Now, they're the legal entity that's supposed to collect the votes in a particular state, in their particular state, and then from that certify that the election was a correctly run election, that the votes were, properly cast, and what's being certified as the votes are the votes. That's what they're supposed to do.
Right.
And they did the exact opposite.
Yeah. Well,
but nobody did anything about it.
Mr. Hare, okay, you asked me to chime in as a citizen. Mr. Hare, we're talking, number one, just like you say, I'm going to expound on you, 150 years ago. The technology and the way that we do things is completely different. There are checks and balances. Everybody is checking each other to a point that's much more, it's far different than it was done back then. They had, if someone wanted to do something back in the day, in those days, I think that, they just had to have the right people behind them, and they would allow this.
Right. There was no computers. You couldn't immediately, compare
you couldn't check
one thing to something else.
Yeah.
And I get that.
Yeah.
But what Donald Trump is saying is, that's your problem. That you couldn't do anything about it in 1876. He's saying that you are accusing me now of being wrong, being illegal, for doing something that actually took place in 1876 on the record. It's clearly on the record because I'm reading it from the record. So you knew that this took place before. You didn't do anything about it then. You didn't do anything about it over the course of the last 150 years.
Okay.
So Donald Trump says you can't do anything about it now.
Okay, well, number one, it hasn't happened since then. He's trying to reassert and reestablish what happened back then.
That's not true.
And also,
that's not true.
It has happened.
That's not true. See, I know you were really cool with John F. Kennedy. He was a little before your time. But the history, you down with that, right?
Yeah.
You used to walk around with the little pictures of Abraham, Martin, and John. Don't lie. I know you was doing it.
I like JFK.
Willie got him on his mantle, too. Abraham, Martin, and John, right? And I get it. I understand the romance, that you all feel.
And I got a feeling you had them, too, Mr. Hare.
No, I didn't have them on my mantle.
All right.
My mother had a lot of sense, right? But my grandmother had it on her mantle, right?
Okay, see,
no question about that.
Somebody had it.
That's how I learned about it, because my grandmother had it on her mantle. But in 1960, not 150 years ago, 60 years ago, 1960, election between John F. Kennedy and Richard Nixon. Foley says that such acts were done by both Democrats and Republicans, and that they're distinct from cases of forgery. So when Republicans and Democrats do it, in their dueling for who gets to win an office, who gets to win the electoral votes for a particular state, when they lie about it and forge documents, that's not forgery. That's not a crime. If you do it because you were trying to figure out a way to manipulate a bank to give you a loan, or for you to get a contract for something that, you really didn't qualify for, you go to jail for doing stuff like that. Right?
Yeah.
But nope, these Republicans and Democrats, they didn't have to do that.
Mr. Hare, the even going back to 1960, the technology and the way that things are done from that day to this time that we're living in now is completely different, and we have to now listen. I'm just going to say, at some point a line has to be drawn. Now, if we don't do it now, then we, as we spoke and as we've been speaking, we're losing what we consider democracy today. We can't allow it. And at this point, Mr. Hare, are you laughing at me? But
No, I understand all of what you're saying, and I'm 100% with you, right? What I'm trying to get us to understand, though, is Trump is working through the criminal justice system in this country, through the Justice Department, and the rules that govern, how these things get litigated, with the Department of Justice. This ultimately is going to wind up being tried before the Supreme Court. Supreme Court has shown a willingness to allow people like Trump and people that think like Trump, these people that are, anti women's rights and people that are anti expanding voter rights, and so on. They've been very, for those kind of people. And so what we're being faced with is the possibility that this so-called conservative 6-3 majority on the Supreme Court, when this case ultimately comes to them, that they will betray the very thing that you were saying right now. If something is wrong, it was wrong in 1876, it was wrong in 1960, it's wrong in 2023. But if they're saying, well, I know that we said that you had a right to govern your own body in 1973, so you could, have abortions and whatever it is that's all about. But now I'm saying that I changed my mind. And that right that you have, that the 14th Amendment says you cannot lose. Remember we went through this before?
Yeah.
The 14th Amendment says that you can neither make nor enforce any law that would abridge any privilege, or it's every privilege, and I forget the other. It's not right, but it's another word.
Yeah.
But any of that, those privileges cannot be taken away, according to the 14th Amendment. But the Supreme Court in the Dobbs versus the I forget what the agency was, but in the Dobbs case, the Supreme Court ruled that the rights that you have had for 49 years are no longer your rights. Somebody else has those rights now.
Mr. Hare, we even going back to different criminal cases that have happened, people being, murder and different things that have happened, and they've overturned things that have become precedent. Mm-hmm. And we have to go back to what's right and wrong. I mean, when you look at it,
we hope we will do that. I'm just trying to alert us. Okay, this is not something I'm making up.
No,
these are the arguments that are being put before the court, Erdogan, whatever his name is, in the court that's governing the case against Donald Trump right now. This is the argument that's being put before the court. And because they're arguing that you all said this was okay, this is what they actually quoting in their argument, that Foley's argument is. He says, openly asserting that one is the duly appointed elector of a state, even when that claim is utterly without merit, is to make an argument about one's status under the law. It is not an attempt to dupe the recipients with counterfeit papers. So if you submit to the the joint session of Congress on January 6th, you submit a roster of electors to the Electoral College, you submit that, and these were all fake electors. That none of them were actually electors to the Electoral College.
Right.
That's only making an argument about your status under the law, but that's not forgery. That's not fraud. What they're saying is that that's distinct from forgery. It's not an attempt to dupe recipients with counterfeit papers. How is that not duping
That's
recipients?
exactly what it is.
You're saying that somebody was elected to the Electoral College who was not elected to the Electoral College.
Right.
That's duping the people,
Yeah,
right? But this Foley says no. That's not it. That's not duping the people. That's just an argument about the electoral status under the law. That's not an argument about an electoral status under the law. The person who's faking these electoral documents, they're not saying that they sat in a body of people and an election took place and we disagree with the outcome. We said there were 16 votes for this person versus 14 for that person. It was the opposite way. They're not saying that. They weren't even at the election. They're not even concerned about the election. They just sat down with each other and wrote up some fake papers that looked official and submitted them to the joint session of Congress. Period. Right? How is that not duping the people? But that's what's going on right now.
That's exactly what it is.
I just want you to be aware of that. Now, I want us to get to something that we haven't talked about for a little while. The Republicans in the House of Representatives have become possessed with a spirit of accountability. Since they got Mike Johnson to be their new Speaker of the House, now they've got this spirit of accountability. So things that they were not making themselves accountable for in the past, suddenly now they want to be accountable and and call these things to account today. So you remember your cousin, George Santos. You remember the guy that said that he was from Brazil? He said that, well, I don't want to go through all of the things that he asserted that he was, but you remember he just made many claims about his background. He went to schools that he didn't go to, that he was a sports person he wasn't a sports person with, that he was, a whole range of things. Santos, his New York House lawmaker colleagues, the other Republican colleagues elected Republicans to the Congress from the state of New York, particularly those from Long Island, they brought forward a measure to toss Santos out of Congress altogether.
Wait, excuse me 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
I was under the, I thought Santos was already ousted.
No.
So no. I didn't know that he was still there all this time.
In fact, your other cousin, Kevin McCarthy, said, no, you can't move him. I need his vote. I don't care if he's a scurrilous, criminal snot. That's neither here nor there. I need his vote.
Okay.
Right?
I thought he was gone.
No, still there.
Okay.
So now Mike Johnson, who's the high Christian moral person, high and mighty, he says, we can't have that scurrilous guy. And there's another woman named Nuna who has the same kind of background as George Santos, faked her credentials and so on. They're not talking about getting rid of her, but they're trying about, now he's talking about getting rid of Santos. So Santos has pleaded not guilty to committing fraud and conspiracy, according to CBS. The effort got underway as the House was stuck in a speakerless stalemate for 3 weeks. You all know this story. They didn't get a Speaker of the House until a couple of days ago, 2 days ago. So it might be that the New York Republican congressman traded the expulsion of George Santos in return for a vote for Mike Johnson. Because they've been sitting around here since January with George Santos being seated, and they didn't say anything about it. All the other Congress people in Long Island, they all said, oh, no, it's okay. He can sit with us and so on. He's been voting and, getting funds for, running his congressional office and so on. He's been doing all of that stuff all this time, right? No problem. But now Mike Johnson becomes the Speaker of the House. How did he get the votes among the Republicans to get all of the Republicans in the House to vote for him as Speaker? I don't know if this is the case, but it sounds to me like the New York congressman said, you don't get my vote unless you get rid of this dude who's an embarrassment, to us and our other New York colleagues. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Well, Mr. Hare, first and foremost, I do believe that he shouldn't have been there in the first place. And if they allowed him to be there that long, I think that they did. I guess to piggyback on you, and I never had thought on this, but maybe utilize him as a pawn in order to add power for what's the guy? What's his name?
George Santos.
No, Johnson.
Mike Johnson, the speaker,
yeah.
right?
Mike Johnson, the new Speaker of the House. Yeah, it's just and now that they're trying to oust him, I guess that is going to bring some solidarity, and I guess his people are. Well, they're trying to say that they want to do the right thing now.
Well, it is a risk for the Republicans because they have a 4-vote majority right now.
Yeah, that's losing one.
Right.
That's
so
if
they lose one, because the Democrats get to appoint the successor to that office,
right,
the Democrats will gain one.
Yeah.
So instead of it being whatever it is, 212 to 220, I think is the split between Democrats and Republicans in the House right now. If that becomes 213 to 219, now you've got only a 3-vote swing, amongst the Republicans. So what Matt Gaetz has been doing over the course of the past 3 weeks, using 7 or 8 Republicans who are voting as a block as extreme Republicans, MAGA Republicans, they've been able to cause the ouster of Kevin McCarthy and able to block legislation from coming to the floor for a vote in the House. Their ability to do that is going to be reduced a little bit, if this gets done.
Let me ask, are there, just as we have in the Democratic Party, we have different players that are on the fence. In the Republican Party, is there anybody?
There are no moderates in the Republican Party.
No, okay.
None.
I just was kind of wondering.
No.
Because losing that one vote.
Every one of them has a ball and chain they're trying to put on your feet and on your wrists and trying to put you back into, that's how bad these people are.
Yeah.
So I think that this is going to be an interesting thing, that's in front of us. And I want to get into what is in front of us with this Mike Johnson as the Speaker of the House. But before I get to that, I just wanted to get to this issue that when Donald Trump was being brought before the Congress for indictment, for impeachment, for his conduct, the Republicans said, well, we're going to have an election in, less than 2 years. Let the voters decide that. So not criminal justice decided like it would be for you, right? Because if the people in your neighborhood said, well, I know that Norm robbed that bank, but he gave the money to us. He bought us some food and whatnot. We're okay with that. You wouldn't say that would be okay, right? You'd have to go to trial, and that had to be litigated in the court. But what they were saying for Donald Trump is, he robbed the country. He manipulated people. He abused his authority. He betrayed, the office of the presidency. In many, many instances, he has done this. And yet they're saying, well, he may have done all of that stuff, but the voters should decide. And that's from an election that was almost 2 years away. George Santos's election is less than a year and a quarter away, right? Because the next round for voting for a congressperson, the next general election, is in November, the first Tuesday in November of 2024. Excuse me. We're only 13 months away from, that next election. Why aren't they saying that, well, the voters should decide whether Santos should stay in office since his election is just 13 months away?
No, they want him out.
Right. But when it was about Donald Trump, it was the opposite. Well, the voters should decide. It's only 2 years, for the next election. I just want that hypocrisy to be on the record. That's what we see going on right now.
Definitely so. Yeah.
Yep. So Oh, one more piece on this accountability issue. A Colorado judge has rejected Donald Trump's bid to toss his lawsuit that was supposed to keep him off of the 2024 ballot. A Colorado judge on Wednesday denied another attempt by Trump to dismiss a lawsuit seeking to remove him from the state's 2024 ballot because of his role in the January 6, 2021 Capitol attack. Now, we've talked about this, substantially before. What is happening here is it's not just on a wide federal level that there's like one ballot and Trump getting knocked off of that one ballot. That's really not the way our elections work. Each individual state has its own election process. And so you can't get on the ballot of a state if the officer of the state who has the authority to decide who can or cannot appear on that state's ballot, if that person says you can't appear on the ballot, your name can't appear. In order for your name to be considered by the public, they'd have to do a write-in candidate for you, like Byron Brown did.
Yeah, what just happened just recently.
Right.
Yeah.
So his name wasn't on the ballot, but people could write in.
Yeah.
Is there a little blank piece of paper over there, the little blank card? They wrote in that name.
What did it say? Write it down. Vote for Brown.
Vote for Brown, right? So I don't know what the jingle will be for Donald Trump, but that's what's happening in Florida, right? The person who is responsible and has the authority to determine whether or not you meet the criteria to appear on the ballot in Florida, that person is saying that Donald Trump has been a part of a conspiracy to attack and overturn the government of the United States. We can't have a person like that on our ballot, right?
Now, wait a minute. Let me ask, because this is kind of getting this. Do you think that this could have anything to do with Mr. DeSantis in Florida?
I don't know if it does, but it seems like that spirit, has been, the genie, is out of the bottle now,
Yes,
at least
sir.
in Florida, right?
Yeah.
So, that's just a thought. Just work that thought in your head.
Is this the only state where they?
There are 5 other states that are also trying to do the same thing.
Okay.
Now, it doesn't mean that every state is going to be successful, because all these decisions are being put before a state court. And each state court has its own mind. So some courts may agree and some may not. But this is the beginning of cracking the armor that's been around Trump for all these years. Some people are now saying, I insist that there be some accountability. A scurrilous person like you cannot represent the citizens of the United States.
Well, it's about time when you really look at it.
It's about time.
When you look at our nation, and if our nation allows someone, I'll use your word, someone as scurrilous as him, to run for president,
listen,
it really looks
this
bad.
is being talked about in the halls of the United Nations and nations' capitals all over the world.
Yeah.
They cannot comprehend what is going on in the United States. But that music, when they say the music begins to play, okay, you don't know that song. Let's take a quick break and talk to our sponsors. Don't go away. We will see you on the other side of the break here at Living for the People at 91.3 FM WBNY.
You took the first step and quit smoking, but even former smokers may still be at risk for lung cancer. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know about a new low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early. It takes only 60 seconds and could save your life. You took the first step, now take the next. Visit SaveByTheScan.org for a simple quiz to see if you're eligible and talk to your doctor about screening. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
91.3 FM WBNY is proud to present Democracy Now! With Amy Goodman.
Welcome to Democracy Now!
Award-winning investigative journalism.
Is the NRA economy imploding.
Providing relevant analysis that makes you think.
Secret State Department documents, including evidence of U.S. war crimes.
Fact-finding reports you will not hear elsewhere. Democracy Now! Airs Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. on 91.3 FM, WBNY, Buffalo. Ready for radio that's challenging, innovative, and encouraging? Tune in, Living for the People.
This is L. Nathan Hare. Join me right here, 91.3 FM, WBNY. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 9 a.m. after Amy Goodman's Democracy Now! We'll provide objective analysis regarding current issues. Call 878-5104. It's Living for the People on 91.3 FM, WBNY. All right, welcome back to Living for the People. This is L. Nathan here, your host. We're here with Norma Carter, who is our in-studio audience of one. Welcome back, Norm.
Thank you, Mr. Hare.
All right, and we're also here with Willie H., who does the live streaming of the program. Welcome back, Willie.
Welcome, everybody. Call in 716-878-5104.
I'd love to hear people in the audience's thoughts about this is another one of these things where you have a Republican state government that's turning itself on its head, where it wants to continue to receive $7+ million in state funding that would go to fund a lot of their health services for the low-income people in Tennessee, but they don't want to comply with the part of the law that says that those funds can be used to teach a woman what her options are in terms of whether she could have an abortion, whether she could not have an abortion, when she could make a decision, how it would be supported, all those kind of health care decisions that get made by women that don't get made by us. They get made by the person who actually has the health condition. And Tennessee wants to have it both ways. They want to get the federal money, but they don't want to comply with the federal law. And the governor of Tennessee is willing to say, I don't want the money at all. If I have to allow some of my money to be used to have somebody counsel some person about the availability or possibility of an abortion, I would rather not have that funding come to my state at all. He's actually saying I would rather take some of my own money as a state and spend my own money on health services for the women. My attitude is, if that's the case, why aren't you doing it right now?
Yeah.
Right? If you could afford to spend that $7 million out of state money, go ahead and do it. We don't even have this argument, right? Yeah. So anyway, this is an article. This was written. I don't want to go through all that detail. What it says is Attorney General Jonathan Skrmetti filed a complaint in U.S. District Court in Knoxville, essentially to overturn the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services decision about how and whether you can access this federal money. He says, quote, "We are suing to stop the federal government from playing politics with the health of Tennessee women." That's what he's saying. So he's the Attorney General for the state of Tennessee. He's saying that he's suing the federal government to stop the federal government from playing politics with the health of Tennessee women. He says, "Our lawsuit is necessary to ensure that Tennessee can continue its 50-year track record of successfully providing these public health services to its neediest populations." Now, 50 years ago, money began to be made available through the federal government to help implement the decision that was made in Roe versus Wade. If you have people that are legally now able to have abortions, instead of having those abortions in a closet or in an alley, or in some back of a saloon someplace, now those abortions are being done at clinics,
right.
That have sterile environments, that have actual doctors, that are administering the abortion procedure. That's what that money was set up for, was to ensure that women were not in the closets and in back alleys and so
Safer
on. Right?
environments.
So he's saying that's the 50-year track record. So I feel we should be able to have this money because we've been getting it for the last 50 years, but I don't want the money to be used for what you want the money to be used for. I don't want the money to be able to use for abortion counseling, right? So earlier this year, Tennessee was disqualified from receiving millions of federal dollars through a family planning program known as Title X. Tennessee has been a recipient of the program since it was launched in 1970. Recently, they've been getting about $7.1 million a year. However, the program, this goes to something like 100 clinics around the state. However, the program has become entangled with a fight over abortion access. In 2021, the Biden administration reversed a ban on abortion referrals by clinics that accept Title X funds. The restriction was initially enacted under the Trump administration in 2019, and so when Biden came in 2021, he said, well, why would I not allow people to be able to use these funds to help counsel women about their options, right? Why would I deny women that when the funds were created for this purpose? So under the latest rule, clinics cannot use federal family planning money to pay for abortions, but they must offer information about abortion at the patient's request. So that's what the federal rules adapted to.
Yeah.
So they could comply with Donald Trump's, ban on abortions, but simultaneously provide for Biden's policy to at least counsel women about what their options are. Go ahead.
Mr. Hare, it seems that almost every single time that you have something in place to help, I would just say the little people, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They take it, it's discretionary money, and they go ahead and they do whatever they can to try to, take that away.
Well, the people that pay the price for these decisions are the people that can't afford to empower their decisions with their own money.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Right? Exactly what I'm saying.
You know what I mean? So if you came at me about that, I would just look at you with a blank stare in my face because I could afford to do it on my own. I don't need your money to be able to do it. But what if I didn't have that situation?
Yeah.
What if I was in a situation where I only had $4 left in my name?
Right.
I'm going to need help to be able to do something like this. Those are the people that are being squeezed by these decisions that are being made by, these factions in the government of the United States.
Yeah. I don't want to take you away from what we're talking about, but I just was trying to get a little information on Mike Johnson.
We're going to get to him. He's coming up next.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh.
So,
okay.
So HHS announced that the Tennessee's Title X funds would be directed to Planned Parenthood, because if he sent the money to Planned Parenthood and they used the money as if it was funding a program of Planned Parenthood, it would bypass the federal regulation that was established by Donald Trump that made it illegal for you to use this money to counsel people on abortions. Of course, the Tennessee people said, no, how can you do that, right? So they said this was like a workaround, and they didn't want to do that. So Republican abortion advocates lost their gourds over the nation's largest abortion provider being used to a workaround Tennessee's rulings. Ashley Cofield, President and CEO of Planned Parenthood of Tennessee and North Mississippi, they said they were just thrilled about getting these dollars. Tennessee has gone to their congresspeople and their senators saying, you got to stop this. You can't let this happen. They'll actually use this money to help women have access to health care. We can't do that, especially low-income women. Only upper-income women can have access to health care.
Wow.
Lower-income women can't have access. Right? That's not what they're saying, but functionally, that's what's occurring.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I thought that was important. Tennessee has increasingly called for rejecting federal funding rather than comply with requirements over LGBTQ plus. I had that right? Did I say that right?
I think you did, Mr.
Okay. For those rights, abortion access, and other hot button issues. According to Tennessee, already this year, Tennessee has rebuffed federal funding for a program designed to prevent and treat HIV after initially attempting to block Planned Parenthood from participating in the program. Now, GOP lawmakers are talking about cutting off $1.8 billion in federal education dollars, much of it targeted to serve low-income students, English learners, and students with disabilities. Advocates argue that Tennessee has enough revenue to cover the federal funding on its own. It just hasn't been doing so. So they're denying Tennessee residents, low-income residents, access to federal funds. They're saying they have the money on their own to do it without the federal funds, but for the past 50 years, they've never done that, and they're not doing it right now. This is what passes for governance in this country right now.
It doesn't make sense.
And I'm just saying this because it seems to me that at some point, Americans have to start saying real, true things to themselves and be upfront. You know, if the reality is you would rather join the Nazis and continue to compromise the life options for people in this country, then say that. Stop pretending that you're Christians. Stop pretending that you are people that want to see right done for the most people and so on. Stop saying that, because that's not what you're doing. What you're doing is you're supporting people that are suppressing people's opportunities, suppressing people's rights, suppressing people's access to critical services and so on.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing, and you're doing it on purpose.
Yeah.
So stop lying about it and just say out front, this is who you are, right?
Yeah.
That's why you keep. So how do we know that this is who you like? Well, my last point for today. Trump sycophant Speaker Mike Johnson augurs a future of shutdowns, withdrawn support for our allies, and the abuse of authority to make America great people, Republicans, to give them their way. That's what we have in front of us right now.
Wow.
Right? This woman, at a press conference held just after Mike Johnson was elected by the Congress to be the Speaker of the House, a woman asked a question of him about his role in trying to overturn, not just his role in terms of his opinion, his role in trying to overturn the November 20 election, November 3rd, 2020 presidential election. She questioned him about his role. She said, what's your feeling now? Are you still, opposed? You still feel that the November 20 election was invalid? And he snickers, and puts a smug smile on his face, and these 8 or 10 Republicans surrounding him all start booing, and one of them says, "Shut up." This is a congresswoman, tells the reporter, "Shut up." Now she's asking a legitimate question, right? You're going to now be the Speaker of the House of the United States.
Hello?
How is it inappropriate for a reporter to ask you about your role in the attempt to overturn the last election
Not at all.
of the United States, to effect a coup?
We want to know where he stands on this, and with everything that Mr. Trump is indicted on and the charges against him. We want to know exactly where he stands.
Exactly. How can that not be an appropriate thing?
Very relevant.
But and not only do they not answer the question, they insult the woman,
Yeah.
right, and rebuke her for asking the question. So I don't know if we have a caller hang on there. Okay, yeah, I'm just gonna. Okay, and so when House Republicans chose Mike Johnson as their 4th Speaker nominee, a common reaction was, "Who's Mike Johnson?" And I'm trying to look through the glass here. Willa, do we have a caller hang on there?
Yeah, we do have a caller.
Okay, let's grab her before we get too far into the hour. Hello, caller, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Good, good. You fellows are doing such a wonderful job today.
Well, thank you. We're trying our best to explore and educate.
I appreciate that, because a couple of things you mentioned, Nate, I wasn't aware of. But the one thing I wanted to speak to was,
This is like the family hour.
oh, yes, I'm here. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're fine.
Good.
So go ahead with your question.
Okay. You know what? I'm listening and I'm talking in two different phones, so I better just talk on this one.
Yeah, well, let's try this one until we get, yeah.
Yeah, the issue with the new Speaker of the House that wouldn't
Right.
answer the question.
Yep.
You know that I don't understand how the rest of America, or that they didn't get that. He blatantly refused to answer that question, and actually his body language and everything was like, I like it wasn't. It didn't faze him, and he definitely. I mean, you just see what his stance was at the time. He's not being bothered with that.
So he comes across to me as a guy who is like, when you were kids in school, there was always a guy who was sneaky. You never quite knew where he was coming from. He didn't say things out in front, but he behind your back. He's always doing little sneaky things behind your back, right?
Let me add this.
I said Eddie Haskell.
There you go. There you go.
I wanted to kind of expound on this, but he has a black son. I just Googled this. Now we're looking for representation.
You mean a black adopted son?
Oh, okay.
No, wait a minute. I see. Okay, I didn't know if he was adopted.
No, I don't know if he's adopted either. I'm just saying.
No. I think this is his biological son.
This is his biological son?
Of 14 years.
No kidding.
Yeah. Now, when we're bringing up him being a certain way and how things look, for that particular party, they're ousting Santos. I just wanted to bring that up. It's just something I just Googled in looking.
So that gives him the credentials to say that, well, I'm not a racist. I slept with a black woman. I got a child by a black woman.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? That's like the Stockholm syndrome. Right?
Yeah, he's got an African American son.
What you got to remember, Norman, is money is green.
Money is green.
It ain't black, white, red, yellow, none of that. It's green.
No
That's
doubt
right.
about it.
That's
No
right,
doubt about
Normie.
it.
Remember that.
So what folks are doing, you look at that, the parties, and it's, especially the far right, it has nothing to do with anything else but racism and money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, control.
Yep, they just want power for their group of people, and they want to, whoever has money, they want them to keep getting more money.
Yeah.
And if you're not getting more money, that's on you.
Well, as I wanted to just speak and say, this particular situation, him having I think it's a wonderful thing, but it's just the way that I believe that the GOP might look at him, and the way that they're looking at Santos about different things, wanting to be a certain way. That's why I brought that up.
Right, but I look at it differently. From my point of view, we can't look at people because of the color of their skin.
Never should.
And assume that they have a certain political or worldview because of the color of their skin.
Right,
that's correct.
There's lots of people that have very dark skin whose worldview is just like Alito and Mike, and just like Mike Johnson. They have the same worldview. People see the world based on what their living experiences are, and so if go ahead.
Also, what's projected, like I see on the media, when I see the media project Trump, everybody knows he's illegal, he do all this stuff, but they portray Trump like a guy that's going against the system,
right?
Which a lot of people can get with, meaning they're going against the system, and they make Biden look like, oh yeah, he's a nice guy, but is he really a nice guy?
He's the establishment.
He's the establishment, right?
Yes.
So now what you have is, we know Trump is all these bad things, but we kind of go with Trump because he's going against the system. Biden is the system.
And the thing about
that's where it gets.
The thing about Trump is like a predator. You know, he's attacking, he's seizing stuff, he's taking stuff,
right.
walking away with loot and booty and so on.
Right.
Where Biden appears as somebody who's just trying to steer the ship. And, you know, if there's some leaks, put some holes or some glue, you know, to plug the leaks. You know, that's the difference. The problem is, if you're an African person, if you're a Palestinian person, if you're a LBGT, whatever you call those letters and whatnot, if you're one of those persons, if you're a disabled person, if you're a part of one of the marginalized population groups in this country,
Right.
The problem is you need for the system to change in a way where it starts looking at your situation, your needs, and helping you to have those needs addressed. You're not looking to change the United States into another country. You're just trying to get the systems of the United States to be responsive to your reality. If I've been enslaved for 350 years and suddenly you free me, but you don't give me access to education, you don't allow me to be able to get a loan, you know, to get a mortgage to pay for my house, if you don't allow me to have access to clean water, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, I'm going to have a difficult time. So when I come at you, I'm not advocating to change the United States into another country. I'm advocating for you to give me the same kinds of opportunities that you gave to other people in this country. But Donald Trump is not doing that. Donald Trump he's not trying to extract or get the country to turn towards providing more responsiveness to particular populations of people that have been underserved in this country. Donald Trump is trying to actually take the country away from itself and put the country in his hands and turn the country from being a majoritarian democracy into an authoritarian, almost like a monarchy.
Right.
That's what Donald Trump wants.
Right.
And he doesn't care what wreckage he creates, you know, in the society in doing that.
Right.
He doesn't care that when he is gone, when he's dead, the things that he's doing and that he has done, we all have to live with all of that, right? So
You know, it's so funny. It's so funny that we fought so hard to free ourselves from or against a monarchy. And right now we're coming right back into this situation. If this guy is elected, and as I say, we should learn by our past and from what we see. If he's elected, I mean that's we're going right back to what we started this country on.
Always ask yourself this question.
Yeah.
When you hear these whiners, you know, these so-called disaffected young people that don't like Joe Biden because he's not aggressive enough. You got these disaffected people that don't like Joe Biden because, well, you know, things aren't that much better for me than they were before. You know, you got that population of people. You got people in this country who are, Biden's not strong enough on climate. Biden's not strong enough on, you know, environmental toxins, whatever the issues are. I always ask, or I try to advise you to ask yourself this question. When you get done at the end of the day, and you should advocate as strongly for those things that you have an interest in. But at the end of the day, you only get to vote for the people that are on the ballot. You don't get to vote for anybody else.
Right.
You got to vote for the people that are on the ballot. So are you saying that you would vote for Donald Trump if your issue is about environmental contamination, if your issue is about energy, your issue is about climate control, if your issue is about people having access to jobs, which Biden clearly has the best record on, if your issue is about, even if your issue is about inflation, Biden didn't cause the inflation. Biden has kept inflation from getting worse and has actually kept inflation under control over the past year.
Yeah.
So, you know, you have to ask yourself, who would you vote for if you didn't vote for Biden?
Yeah.
Would you expect Donald Trump to be better for you on these issues rather than worse for you on? Donald Trump's policies are how you got in this position in the first place. his policies did this to you.
Mr. Hare, President Biden has.
I'm sorry. Did we finish with our caller?
Dee, are you there? She must have hung up.
All right. Thank you for the call. I'm sorry we got too far off on a tangent, but thank you for that call.
President Biden has shown a mandate that he cares about every one of the causes that you just spoke on, and many more. And it's so crazy that the media is not laser focused on the positive things that he's been doing as president, and should be laser focused on the negativity and the lies and all of the deceit and everything that's going on with President Trump. They should I'm sorry.
I'm just going to say, there's a certain level of maturity that you have to acquire as a American voter, right? What I mean by maturity, it means that you have to sometimes accept that of the people that are available for you to vote for, some are going to give you more of what you want to see done, but not everything.
Right.
And some are going to give you less of what you want done, but may not be bad for you on everything, right?
Right.
And so let's take the Palestinian situation and Israel situation right now.
Yes, sir.
Obviously, the Hamas organization is a evil organization. They would, chop off people's heads, rape people on television, and all the kind of stuff that they have done. Of course, you should be doing everything you can to get rid of those people. I don't think you have to blow Gaza up in order to do that. I think you can do police actions where you go door to door, building to building, and find where these people are and root these people out.
Yeah.
But the consequence of Hamas's actions were 1,400 Israeli people getting killed. The consequences of Israel's response to the action, they're not killing Hamas people. There may be 3 or 4 people in Hamas that they killed.
Yeah.
They're killing Palestinians.
Right.
And all you see are women and children and citizens being blown to bits or being crushed in buildings and so on, right? And so you have to ask yourself, well, Joe Biden is on the side of Israel, 100%. You have to ask you don't have to guess. He said, I'm on the side of Israel 100%. You may have to accept, as an American voter, that although I don't like Joe Biden's position on Israel, I have to look at the overall spectrum of what's available to me. Joe Biden is better on employment. He's better on health care. He's better on women's rights. He's better on climate control. He's better on energy, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
I just have to live with the fact that he's not as in the same place that I am on killing these people in Palestine, and I'll just have to advocate as best as I can to hope he modifies his position, on that realm. That's the maturity that we have to have. You can't whine about everything. At the end of the day, you only have the choices that you have. There are no other choices. Either you're going to go one way or you have to go the other, and we have to live with that.
Yeah.
So you see the music is on. That means that you're driving us out of the office again. Excuse me. I'm going to try my best to get better over the weekend. Thank you all for listening to us and supporting us. We look forward to talking to you all on Monday. Hope you all have a great weekend. We thought we did a good job with the Buffalo Bills. Go Bills. We'll see you all on Monday here at Living for the People at 91.3 FM, WBNY. See you all then.
Go Bills.
Why so serious?
And if you're not here today, you should have been. It's the mafia. Who next? It's the mafia. We next. It's the mafia.